folks, I had a question quite recently in one of my other videos, and the chap was asking me about this thing, which many of you may have seen before. This is a Mark I 100 watt Boss Katana that originally started off as a 1x12 combo, and 3.5 years ago now I took it apart and I made this thing. Like I say, to some of you, this thing is quite old hat, you've seen it before, but to some this is quite new, and I've had quite a few new subscribers. I'm now over the 200, so the more subscribers I get, the better. So please like and subscribe, and it would be great to see the numbers rise to, you never know, 250. Anyway, this thing I made about 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago, and I have used this an awful lot. Probably as much in gigs as I've used either of these. Now, these days it is primarily a backup. However, even this year, I know I've used this in 8 gigs as my main amp. And there's a number of reasons. You know, convenience is one, and the other one really is we sometimes have some pretty dodgy wiring to deal with. If you're used to playing live, you'll be quite aware of that. You turn up to a venue and you've got a PA system, or you've got your big bass rig and valve amps, and you turn around and go, right, where do we set up? And they give you a place, and then, right, where do we plug in? And they go, there's a power point over there. It's like, right, you have a power point. And they go, yep, we have one power point. Great. So I thought, yeah, this thing worked well in that situation because, to be honest, it's quite low powered. You know, 40-50 watts is its input power. So, you know, this thing's loud, scary loud, especially plugged into a 4x12 cabinet. So I can do most gigs on 50 watt mode, and the volume, the master volume, isn't even halfway. It's still plenty loud. So that's great when you think, you know, you're running 400 or 500 watts to power up a tube amp. So if you're having to watch the power usage, this is where this has really came in. And you'll notice there's a few little additions to it. I'm going to talk you through some of those. Everything that I've done has got a little video if you dig back through my sort of back catalogue of things, and hopefully the videos are getting a little bit better. The first one is absolutely abysmal. Not only did I not know how to do anything with YouTube at all, I didn't even know which way to hold the camera. So it's upside down, it's moving around, you will get a bit seasick, but it's still one of my most popular videos. So I'll set this up, I'll show you it being set up for all those that are new to this gadget, and talk you through it. So bear with me, I'll just pause this camera because again my editing skills are still not there, and I'll run you through a few sounds and talk you through what I've done with it. Okay, bear with me a second. Okay, and we are now back, and you should have a close-up view of the Katana as it currently sits. Now, you may have noticed that I do have a Boss SD1, which is my #1 overdrive pedal, and probably always will be, and something that people always say a Katana needs, which is a tuner. To be honest, I've an awful lot of different amps and none of them have ever had a tuner, so this shouldn't be any different. I'm quite happy with a floor tuner, and if you're actually gigging, you need one because it's a kill switch if nothing else. So if you want to talk to your audience, you can mute it. Okay, so to all those that have not seen this before, and oh, by the way, I'm using an Ibanez, you can barely see it, an RG1070 PDZ, which is off the premium range. I've got a little video about all the different Ibanez that I have, and this is amongst them. So I will set this up and just show you how it all comes together. So it's quite simple. Dump this on the floor. 3 cables. 1 guitar cable, into the tuner. Tuner is already wired into the Boss SD1, SD1's already wired into there. Power for the tuner and the pedal is off this tiny little Engel power tap portable 9-volt unit. Now I've done a little video on this, and it's a fantastic little transformer actually, and it runs off a little USB port, and you can run it off power banks that you get for charging your phone. However, when I was building this, I fitted a 5-volt USB power outlet. There's actually 2 of them on this side. So when they switch it on, that becomes live and I can power my pedals. So it really is an all-in-one kind of unit. Now, next thing to do is your speaker cable. One speaker cable, and it just goes in the back there. That's it. I fitted that at the time, and we have your normal power cable. So in it goes, switch on, and you will see we have the SD1 on. I'll put it off just now. There's the tuner on, off, and I'm in preset mode. I don't tend to stay in preset mode, I tend to run it in a pedal board mode. So the reason I do have this SD1 is because in the Mark 1 katanas I can't run multiple effects and have a boost. So I've made my boost a standalone unit. I've had this booster mod setting. This was a GAFC foot switch that I took apart and drilled the chassis and refitted the individual parts. So it's not quite a, if you lift all this up, there's no GAFC body, it's all gone. It's just the circuitry wired in there. And this I've now got set as a phaser pretty much all the time. I play in an 80s kind of rock band, so I don't need a huge amount of effects. I've got different overdrives, I've got a boost, I've got a phaser, I've got a harmony there, that's my tap tempo, and this is my delay. And that is pretty much my core tone. Now I sat for a couple of hours once and dialed this in as close as I could to my Bugera 333XL. A/B testing, one after the other, and I got the Katana pretty close. Slightly different, and how it reacts is obviously different compared to the tube amp, but once you're up and playing, I'm quite happy with it. It does the job really, really well actually. So to get this dialed in, what I would always say is you go into the Tone Studio system, you can plug it into a laptop, and I did a high cut at 4K and a low cut at 80 Hz, and that just took away some of the brittle fizzle and it made it work quite nicely as a real amp. I would say it's like a real amp. It is a real amp, but like a tube amp. So I'm in standby there, put it on to 1/2 watt mode, which is more than loud enough for in here, and here is a basic crunch sound that I use. Now the trick, you'll hear the delay just tailing off there. The trick I found with the Katana on the brown channel is actually to ease the gain back and have that around the halfway mark. I'm not going to go into all the sounds because you've heard this before, you've heard Katanas before, there's a million of them. But put it into position 4 on the guitar, kind of stratty sound, bring up the volume, and even on such a high gain setting, So even just like that, plenty of range. Anyway, the boost, that takes us into kind of more hair metal, heavy metal territory. So I'll just put it on. So there you go, and because I've now got this in pedal mode, if I want a phaser, I'll just depress that, and I can go to see where I'm going with that sound. So my second position in this, harmony, that's what this button is. That's my kind of harmony sound. So if I want to do a kind of doubling up, I'm the only guitar player in the band, so occasionally just a subtle harmony, and I've obviously got my delay and tap tempo. So that's my core sound. If I switch this over to pedalboard mode into presets, position 2 is essentially the same, but with a much more prominent delay. So I can do that kind of add the harmony to that, I can with like that. If I wanted to add a bit of modulation, I've got my phaser there. Position 3, that's my kind of clean. So I'll just go over to the position 4 on the guitar and but the Boss SD1 works quite nicely there as well, because that just position 4 is quite simply just really the same voicing as my high gain sound, but just onto the crunch channel. So it's all kind of in balance, but it's just got a bit more grit, and I can boost that if I want. Really it. All very functional, all very usable, and this thing has been such a great workhorse. I've got bits of, you see there's bits of dual lock stuck all over it for different pedal combinations that I've ever wanted to try. There's a load of Velcro stuck on this side, so if I use my AKG wireless, it can just stick on the side if I want it. I can run the line out straight into the desk. I can run it straight into the desk without anything coming out of a cabinet, just by switching it to standby, and the whole thing works the same way as a multi-effects unit would work. With a line out, it's a speaker emulated line out, does that job great. This thing is an 8 ohm output amp, so I can actually put it into my Laney 4x12, which has a link capacity, into my Harley Benton 4x12 and run a full stack. They're both 16 ohm cabinets, two 16 ohm cabinets in parallel, 8 ohms. So this is quite happy running both of those, and that is just unbelievably loud. It's a fantastic sound. So yeah, this is my little Boss Katana 100 watt floor amp. I ended up calling it a Claymore because it's not really a katana anymore, and I'm Scottish, so I went with Claymore. Don't think the name really stuck, however, but it's a shame Boss didn't actually ever get round to making one of these things, because it's, honestly, it's great. Oh, if you didn't know, this little thing here is a vent because the heatsink for the amp is directly under there. So there's never any danger of it overheating, and I've played this in 30+ degree in full sun and cranked up pretty loud running a couple of 4x12 cabinets and never had an issue at all. It's been the mainstay for a lot of gigs. Like I say, at times it's been the only one I've taken. And I think this is still, to this day, probably the best thing I've ever made. And I tend to tinker a lot with bits and pieces and do bits and pieces like that. But this thing, I still love it. It's got a full effects loop, it's got line out, it's got auxiliary in, it's got headphone out, it's got 2 USB power points. I can add another foot switch. I've got this side, there's a input for running an effects pedal, like an expression pedal, and I've got another one there which I can put a volume pedal on as well. In fact, I do have one of those M-Wave cheap volume pedals, and it works really well. Just plug it in and I've got a volume pedal, and there you have it. That is a summary. Thank you very much. I can't remember who it was that asked about this, but it's been a wee while since I've talked about it, and I thought it's well worthy of a little return. So comment down below, see what you think about this sort of thing. Is it the sort of thing you would use? Should you harass Boss to make another one? And again, I'll have something for you very, very soon. I'll switch this over to high gain and I'll just play you out with something. I'll maybe do a bit of a Van Halen-esque kind of... Thank you very much. I'll have something for you soon. Bye bye.